of the gate, JT. We are rolling today. I have England, Argentina. I should be in a sports pub today with England, and I'm here for your valued sports talk. So if you see me looking up on our YouTube channel, you'll know why, because I am heavily into this soccer game, which is just starting, as Clay just said, military execution, putting these games on time compared to the MLB All-Star game. Please welcome Levi Edwards, who's in studio with us today. Good to see you, my friend. Happy summer. How are you?
Happy summer. I like this shirt. Where'd you get this?
This is kind of like I'm wearing my Raiders Summer Series shirts here. I got like a nice, like we're on vacation kind of shirt today.
The Litnikoff Foundation.
Yeah,
I like this. This is
little bit of that.
This is tough. I know you guys on the radio. Y'all can't see this shirt, but this is kind of sick. I like it. Yeah.
That's a good plug for my YouTube channel where they can see you, and you are wearing a shirt I've never seen before in Raider Nation. This Bo Jackson Nike. Is this a throwback? What is this?
It's a retro throwback shirt, but it's a Nike Bo Jackson shirt. Kind of like when the pose where he's kind of like towering over the camera. So
wow.
Yeah. It kind of looks like a shirt, you know. My old boss, Matt Walks, shout out Walks. I know he's not listening, but who cares? He's the one that put me onto this shirt on eBay, and I bought it. And obviously, I'm from Alabama. Bo Jackson is the greatest athlete from my home state of Alabama, arguably the greatest athlete to ever come from the United States of America. So I have to rock him today.
You won't hear any argument from me on that one. So here's what we're doing today. I came up with this idea, and I called Levi because Levi's doing all these features on the coaches, the coaching staff, and I got to get up to speed on the coaches because I don't know them, and I'm assuming you don't know them, and Levi knows them, and Levi's been interviewing them and sitting down with them, and we're going to pick 4 coaches today, and we're going to have a master class on these coaches. I think this is going to be fantastic. So it's like we're going into Raiders school, and we're going to be sitting in one of the halls there listening to Professor Edwards talk about these coaches, because the coaches have to be the difference this year. So before we begin, I want to get an overview from you on this series that you've been putting out, and you've been putting out these columns, and you've been really doing a deep dive on the coaches. How has that been? How accessible have these coaches been, and what have you been learning about them?
Really just everyone's journey. This is something that we started last year when we had in the new coaching staff with Pete Carroll. It was a series that one of our old digital team coordinators, he put together, and now he's working with the NFL in their PR department. So shout out to him. But this is one of those things where he started, and I thought that it went really well, and obviously things went the way that it did in the 2025 season. Fresh slate of coaches. So obviously we were just kind of like, okay, let's just run it back. New coaches, let's just take the whole series and let's redo it. And so what I really have gotten to learn about these guys is just the journey. Everybody has the path to get to where they are. Obviously, you have your path. Yep. I have my path, and these coaches, they didn't just wake up overnight and just say, okay, well, I'm going to be the offensive line coach or the linebackers coach of the Raiders. That just doesn't happen overnight. You have to grind it out. You either got to put in some time on the field, or you got to put in some time at a D3 school nobody's ever heard of, or you got to be a quality control somewhere, and then be able to guide really good players to do really good things. And I think that's been the best part about just doing these interviews and writing these stories, is just kind of learning about the journey of these guys. And the common theme with all of these guys is that Clint Kubiak went out and he got some winners. He got guys that were in other situations at other places, and they won games. And so when you're in a situation where you're a first-time head coach, you want to be able to lean on a staff of guys that have done it before, that are proven winners, that have had proven success. And so with that being said, I think he did a pretty good job of being able to make that a common theme. Yeah,
the elephant in the room is there's been way too many coaches in this organization since the Raiders moved to Vegas. The turnover has been so alarming that a lot of coaches don't stay because the head coach gets fired, and there's probably been some good coaches that have walked out the door because new coaching staffs come in and they want to bring in those coaches. How difficult has that been for you, for me, for the fans, for the players that have been here to have all of these new coaches? And What I like about coaches is every one of them has a new buy-in every year. This is why we're buying in this year. Are you sensing that this is a different buy-in than you've seen recently from Pete Carroll, Antonio Pierce, Josh McDaniels, going back to Gruden, that it feels a little bit different in the building?
I don't want to say a different buy-in. I think all of these coaches, and granted, I've gone through a hell of a lot of head coaches in my 6-7 years I've been with the Raiders now. But I think all of the coaches have the same level of buy-in of really wanting to put together a good product. I think the difference between this and any other regime that I've been able to cover with the Raiders is just the seriousness and the urgency in how they do things, where they don't want to – obviously they know it's a process, but they're not trying to cut corners. They're just trying to go straight into it. And there's definitely a seriousness about it, not in the sense, guys aren't having fun, but at the end of the day, they're coming in there and they're trying to be very efficient with their time. This is a job. They're working. They're trying to win games. And if they're not trying to build on that, then why are you in the building? Why are you there? Why are you coming in if you're not here to get better, if you're not here to put in work, if you're not here to win games? So obviously, there's some fun here and there, and the chemistry is definitely growing. But just the sense of urgency that I felt in this regime that I just haven't felt in other regimes, especially
That's what I want to hear.
Last 2 or 3.
All right, so we decided to pick 4 coaches today: Rick Dennison, Joe Woods, Travis Smith, and Mike Sullivan. So we're going to dive into all those coaches, and then we'll have Levi back next week or when I'm at camp, and we'll pick another 4 coaches. And we'll do that so we can have a deep dive on this coaching staff. Everything's up on YouTube. It'll live on archives. And I think this is important because, again, I don't know these coaches. And that's not a knock on me or anybody else. The building's closed. They're on vacation. They got hired. We met them in the hallway, but we want to do a deep dive because I think the coaching is imperative. And before we get to Rick Dennison, I want to start with Clint Kubiak. We know all about Clint Kubiak now, but he's never been a head coach. From what you were able to see at OTAs, mandatory minicamp, some of the work around there, I've been hearing that he's very efficient from the time he comes out to the stretch to we're getting to work. Like, it's very efficient. But I've also seen other coaches who have been like that on steroids too. John Gruden with his play calling sheet, very efficient. Josh McDaniels, I know you don't like him, but he was a savant at his play call on offense, what we're going to do once practice begins. What's been different with Clint Kubiak now with Robbie Leonard on the defensive side when you see him come out on the field? How efficient are they when they look at the clock?
Yeah, this is going to sound really silly, but when I think about Clint Kubiak and his coaching philosophy of what I've been able to see, I think about a Glorilla song, Let Her Cook. And the younger people are going to know what I'm talking about. But I think that's what it comes down to. I don't know why that song stuck in my head. But Clint Kubiak just he lets his guys cook. He just goes out there. The word that you said that is pinpoint in my brain is efficiency. He's very efficient. And he knows who he put together. He knows the coaches and what they can do. He's familiar with them. He doesn't have questions about it. So obviously he's the head coach. He's going to run the operation, but he goes out there and he lets his coaches coach. He doesn't seem like he's micromanaging over guys. He doesn't seem like he's over here trying to put too much of his input into certain places or certain situations. And obviously his father has the same kind of reputation of being like that as a head coach as well. But Clint seems like the kind of guy that he definitely is going to have his input in things, and at the end of the day, it's going to be his way or no way. But he trusts the guys that he brought in, and he just lets them cook. He just lets them do their thing. He lets them coach the players the way that they need to be coaches, because at the end of the day, those position coaches, they're the masters.
Right.
They're the specialist. So there's not really anything more that you could tell this guy on how to coach corners than a guy that has played corner or a guy that has played safety or a guy that has played linebacker, and now they've been able to do this at the highest of levels. So I think the big thing for Clint is he's brought in guys that he can trust, and he's letting them cook. Levi
Edwards in the studio. So let's start with Rick Dennison, and he played in the NFL, but his coaching career started in 1995 as an offensive assistant with the Denver Broncos, Houston Texans, back to the Broncos, the Buffalo Bills, the Jets, had a nice run with Minnesota, went to the Saints and Seahawks. Obviously, we know what he's done with the Seahawks, and now he's come back and he's coaching with Clint Kubiak, the offensive line for the Raiders. It would take me 10 minutes to read how long he's been a coach in this league. So let's start with Rick Dennison. The offensive line was a train wreck last year. It was an absolute train wreck. Pete Carroll had his son. He was in over his head. No one knew when they were playing. No one knew when they were starting. Guys were missing blocks. The technique was terrible. He was brought in to clean this up. So tell us about his connection to the Kubiak family and why you feel he's a good fit in Las Vegas.
Well, it just goes so far back beyond his coaching career starting. This is a guy who has actually babysat Clint Kubiak. So imagine you have a position coach that you're bringing in that you've known pretty much your whole life. And that's the situation with Rick Dennison, where he was a linebacker on those Broncos teams. And he won a lot with those Broncos teams. He was on there with John Elway. He was on there with, obviously, the backup quarterback, Gary Kubiak, who he became really good friends with. And they went to 3 Super Bowls together. Granted, they got their ass whooped in those 3 Super Bowls in the 80s, but they went to 3. And that's a hell of an accomplishment in its own right. And so, obviously, he goes through his playing career. It wraps up, and then Gary's like, hey, I'm getting the coaching. Shanahan, he's going over to the 49ers. He's bringing all us in. We want you to, to come in. And so that was kind of like the first start of when he thought he was going to come into coaching. But then after that, he left. Shanahan left to go – well, not Shanahan, I apologize. Gary, he went back to Denver to become their quarterback's coach and their offensive line coach. And then that's how Rick Dennison got into coaching, is through that, after he had left San Francisco after they had won that Super Bowl with Steve Young. And so really they already had the friendship already in place just from playing together. And then that turned into a very long history of coaching together, where they win the 3 Super Bowls with the Broncos in the 90s and the one in Super Bowl 50 against the Panthers. And so obviously with that established relationship with Gary, that trickles down to Clint. And now that, Gary's not coaching anymore, now Clint has a guy as his right-hand man who's like, I know this guy. He literally babysat me. He went to all my football games because they played together. Rick Dennison's kids and Clint, they played ball together in Colorado. So, this is a very rich history that this man and this family has.
So the philosophy comes from Gary Kubiak, the Shanahan tree, what goes down through the Bronco years, a little bit of the Niners and all that. So whenever I hear about a offensive line coach, I hear about zone blocking technique or man-to-man. What is the strength of Rick Dennison when he puts his stamp on an offensive line? Typically, what type of offensive line does he coach?
Definitely that West Coast style offense, what you're just talking about, man-on-man. And kind of zone blocking, making sure that you're going as fast as you can, getting the person in front of you, opening up holes. So basically all your running back has to do is just make the right read, go through and make his cut as quick as you can. Something that was interesting when I was talking to Rick, because obviously you're a former NFL linebacker, and now you find yourself on the offensive side of the ball, coaching offensive line. How the hell does that happen? And I talked to him about it, and it's interesting just in the sense that his playing days and his ability to play linebackers has helped him tremendously as an offensive line coach, because what he's doing is he's giving these offensive linemen the viewpoint of what it's like as a defender. And so since he knows what it's like as a defender and what the defense is looking at when they're attacking an offense, he's able to relay that over from that viewpoint over to an offensive line of saying, this is what you need to watch out for. This is what they're looking for. This is what they're trying to catch you on. And so it's pretty much just been kind of open. He's kind of giving the answers to this test for the offensive line of this is what they're going to do, because this is what I did. This is what I look for. This is what I did when I was on this side of the ball. So this is what you need to watch out for. And I think that just that alone, and him talking to me about this, has helped him tremendously as an offensive line coach, and really just an offensive coach in general, of just being able to see both sides of the field and know how different people are going to try to attack you.
Levi Edwards in studio. We're breaking down Raiders coaches for the first hour today. So just from a sit down with him and talking to him in the building, is he a real big accountability guy? Is he a competition guy? Is he a guy that's going to be in your face, or a guy that's going to break you down in the middle of practice and then get you on the whiteboard? What type of tactician is he going to be? Is he going to be hard-nosed, or is he going to be kind of a player's coach? Can you tell?
I think he's going to be a little bit of both. I definitely think, there's going to be times where he's going to dress down some guys. But at the end of the day, I think like all of these coaches, they're big teachers.
Okay.
They are big into teaching and making sure that they're getting the information that they're trying to relay as efficient as possible. And so he definitely seems like a really, obviously he's an intense guy, but I think that the players really respect him and they like him. And he seems very, I don't want to say the word laid back, but he seems very, he's a funny guy.
Yeah, okay.
You know, he can crack some jokes. Personable. I think that's the word I'm looking for. Is he seems like a very personable guy.
He's 68 years old. He just turned 68 in June, so he's seen it all as a player, as a coach. But my takeaway from our conversation is the level of trust that Clint Kubiak knows that when this offensive line's working here and he has to leave an O-line meeting and go to the quarterbacks, or Clint Kubiak's going to a defensive meeting as the head coach, he's going to be really confident with Rick Dennison as someone who's a member of his family, where he's going to give all the trust and expect that trust to come back.
Absolutely. And I hope most people know this, but for the common NFL fan, I don't think people truly understand how important the offensive line is. Mm-hmm. If you do not have a offensive line in sync, you have nothing. You can't accomplish anything on a football field if your offensive line is not cohesive. And you mentioned all of these things about how the Raiders' offensive line looked last year, and I wish I could say you were over-exaggerating, but I can't say that. And at the end of the day, this position coach in particular, with his experience and what he's able to accomplish and what he's seen, what he's done, I think that this arguably might have been the most vital, most pivotal hire that Clay Kubiak might have made, along with his offensive line coach and also, not offensive line, his offensive coordinator with Janoko, and also promoting, Rob Leonard. Those were two very important hires. But when it comes to making a hire for a position coach with the background that Rick Dennison has, this arguably, I would say, is the most important hire that he's made this offseason.
Yeah, as we wrap it up with Rick Dennison, because we're going to move on and cover 4 coaches here in the hour, Levi Edwards in studio. I look at the personnel, and I would assume, I don't know this, but I would assume Rick Dennison is really good at evaluating talent. And he's looking at the talent now, and he's in an evaluation process. And Colt Miller looks to be a lock at left tackle. Tyler Linderbaum, of course, is going to be the center. And then we wonder with the other 3 starters, Jackson Powers-Johnson, who seems to be a fan favorite. I think he's gotten the raw end of the deal since he's been here, not from the GMs and the scouting departments. I just don't think the coaches have handled him well, where he just can't just go out and play. He's always looking over his shoulder. He's got to compete. He's going to get benched. They don't believe in him at this position. I hope this comes to an end. I hope either he's here, but whatever his future is, I hope that Rick Dennison is the guy that can unlock Jackson Powers-Johnson. Do you think that Jackson Powers-Johnson mentally and physically needs to be unlocked to take his level a little bit higher there? Because he could be nasty as hell next to Linderbaum, and this could be the beginning of 2 core guys playing next to each other that could lead the Raiders to greatness.
I definitely think that he's got, what you said, the raw end of the deal. I think a lot of these offensive linemen, especially from last year, they got the raw end of the deal.
Yeah.
I feel like not even just Jackson Powers-Johnson. I look at guys like Jordan Meredith. 1 minute you're a guard, 1 minute you're a center, then you never played center, and then you're going back to guard. You look at guys like Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant, who were high draft picks last year, and even though the season is forgone and there's nothing else really to play for, you don't really get snaps until way late, and you're not really getting the experience you need in your rookie season going into your second year. There's a lot of things that happened in a lot of different places. So I think that this is not a untalented offensive line. There's some really good guys on this unit. I really do truly believe that. When it comes down to it, they do need to get unlocked. And I think Rick Dennison is the guy, just with his experience and also with this scheme that they're about to implement, this West Coast style zone blocking kind of system. I think all of these guys need to be unlocked, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that looks in training camp, because I do think, obviously, you mentioned those 2 positions, Colton, Tyler, center, left tackle, those are kind of set. But those other 3 positions, in my opinion, when I'm looking at this offensive line going into camp, it's up for debate. It's up for grabs. I think anybody can get it.
Well, that's important. That's my final follow-up in regards to personnel. Let's go with DJ Glaze. I would hope by the end of the preseason, we are going to easily be able to tell if DJ Glaze is on the hot seat or he's a perennial starter here. There's going to be no, we got to wait. But I was interviewing the coach last year, interviewing him 3 or 4 weeks into the season, and he would look me in the eye, and I didn't mind his answer because that Pete Carroll was being honest. He wasn't sure. He didn't know during the week leading up to the game if someone was going to start over each other because he wasn't sure that they had a good week of practice or not, or they were competing at the level he wanted to. That's got to end. Like, we got to have a starting offensive line of 5 guys and then 2 angry bulls who are like, no, I'm better than those 2 guys. I want to prove during the week that I can unseat 1 or 2 of those guys, and it's got to just be violent. It's got to be really intense. And I'm just hoping that Rick Dennison, as we talked about unlocking this offensive line, settles with 5 to start the season, and there's no doubt that the only way they're going to lose a position is if they play poorly and someone beats them out of that position.
Absolutely, especially when you look at the schedule, and we're not going to go into the schedule right now, but these defensive lines that the Raiders are playing this year, nasty defensive lines that you're playing this year. When you look at the Patriots and the Seahawks and the Rams, who might get Aaron Donald back, which feels like a cheat code, but I'm not even trying to think about that right now. But what you said, you have to have – this can't be a rotation. Obviously, you want to have depth and you need versatility because injuries can happen at any point in time, but you cannot experiment anymore. Mm-hmm. You have to get your best 5 offensive linemen and you got to put them out there on the field and tell them to go at it. Regardless of position, regardless of anything else you want to look at, you got to look at your best 5, properly evaluate your best 5, because at the end of the day, the rest of the offense, especially with you have young receivers, you have a young running back, like it's a very young team. So that offensive line can really jumpstart everything else for the rest of the team. So that's not something you can screw up on.
Does this offensive line have the opportunity to be really good, or is this going to be a year in progress? Because we don't have time for Brock Bowers to wait for a developmental year. Tyler Linderbaum did not come here for a developmental year with players around him. He played for the Ravens. He wants to run downhill. He wants to get to the playoffs. Is there a chance that Rick Dennison can make this offensive line really good, where you're looking at a starting 5 where 4 out of the 5 of them are at a above average level, and then they're subbing players out that are really good coming in and out if they have a little bit of a rotation? Is there a lot of upside to this O-line in your opinion?
There's definitely some upside. I think before we start looking at how good they can be, let's just focus on how much better they can be than last year. We need to raise the bar. Before we can get to being these Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber players, we need to focus on being better than we were the day before. We need to focus on not allowing the most sacks in the NFL to opposing defenses. I think that's what the offensive line can focus on, being better than the day before. And that should pretty much be obvious just from 2 positions. You have Colton Miller, who only played 3 games last season, who is arguably arguably one of your best, if not your best, offensive lineman, and your veteran guy, your leader. And then on top of that, you have Tyler Linderbaum, who, according to ESPN, not me, the second best center in the league.
Yeah, you just lightly put me in check there. I tried to take this offensive line, and I wanted to give them flowers, and I wanted to say they could be great, and you just put me in check.
They could be great. But they could be great.
You took me in check and said, "Hey, let's go from being the worst offensive line and show some improvement before we start crowning these guys like they're going to be competing for the Pro Bowl." That was really good radio.
They do have the potential, though, and I think JPJ has the potential to be a Pro Bowl guard. We already know Tyler Linderbaum is a Pro Bowl center. We already know that Colton Miller probably got screwed out of a couple of Pro Bowls over a couple of years. So you got some pieces there. It's really just getting the most out of them, but really just being better than they were the day before. We got to raise the floor bad.
Levi Edwards in studio. I think this is a master class in the coaching because it's part of me saying, man, I need to ramp up. Like when I was taking tests in school, man, I needed a tutor at times. I needed my mom to give me extra homework. I'm calling games in the preseason, man. I need to get up to speed. I don't even recognize these guys. I got to get to know them. Levi knows them. The monologue brought to you by Modelo, the fighting spirit of Modelo. Jump on into our show at any time and know on Friday, Yes, Friday, we have a bucket of Modelo's, and we celebrate the week that was. World Cup, MLB All-Star Game, Raiders one step closer to training camp right around the corner. If you want to get in, we'll probably take your calls next hour. If you want to get in next hour, we'll answer some of these questions. We'll get your opinion on what this hour sounds like. No score between England and Argentina, 24 minutes in the game. It looks really physical to me. Looks like a physical game. Guys are giving each other dirty looks.
Really good defense.
Yes, a hydration break. That's what I need. Hey, everybody in the chat, you should bust my blank and say, JT, you need a hydration break. I do. Levi Edwards in studio as we do a master class on the coaching staff for the Silver and Black. It's got to be improved from last year.
I've been really fortunate to get to work with Rick, and he was the offensive coordinator when I worked with Denver, and he teaches me way more than I've ever told him. His experience in this scheme, his ability as a coach to get the best out of his players, his ability to scheme offensively, he's as good as he gets.
That was pretty cool. That was Clint Kubiak talking about Rick Dennison, who he goes back with as long as anyone in his football life. JT, back with you. We're brought to you by the DeCastroverde Law Group. The brothers win. If you get into an accident or injured, Alex and Orlando DeCastroverde have you. Brotherswin.com. Brotherswin.com. We're breaking down 4 coaches today. We'll do 4 coaches or 5 next week, just so when we head into training camp coming up here at the end of the month, we'll have a better understanding of the impact of the coaches as we now move to Joe Woods, pass game coordinator, defensive backs, and he is back from last year. So tell me about that. A lot of times you wipe out a coaching staff, no one comes back. What did John Spytek, Clint Kubiak, Tom Brady, everybody see in Joe Woods that they have confidence with him going forward?
Well, first you can't undermine the fact that he got retained just because there was only 3 guys that got retained. You had Rob Leonard, who got promoted. You had Luke Steichel, who's coaching the best tight end in the league. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. And then you have this guy who has so many years of experience. But I think the funny thing about this situation as to a huge reason why he got retained is obviously he has the years of experience, but he also, like Rick Dennison, has an established relationship with Clint Kubiak and the Kubiak family. He's a guy that was on that coaching staff in Denver when they won the Super Bowl in 2015. He's worked a lot with him, and he's worked a lot with both of those Kubiaks in Denver, in Minnesota, and in New Orleans. So definitely has a really good track record with those guys. And this was a situation where Clint was able to come into a locker room and come into a coaching staff, and he was like, okay, well, I know that guy. I know what he can do. I'm familiar with him. I'm comfortable with him. So obviously it's a young unit, and you're an experienced guy. If there's anybody that can get him right, it's going to be you. Yeah, I think one of the things that jumped out at me at Joe Woods is that I looked at what he was able to do in Cleveland. In Cleveland from 2020 to 22, he led the Browns and their defensive unit, and he was a guy that as a defensive coordinator, his players evolved. The Browns tied for 4th in the NFL in passes defended, 85, and ranked 5th in opponent net passing yards. So he's got a track record already with different units that have been successful. So let's talk about the talent here and what he has to work with, obviously, because I still think there's upside for this defensive backfield. But they added a number of different players by keeping Isaiah Palomal and Jeremy Chin. With the new additions that they have and some of the players that are going to be competing, how important is his coaching role to get that unit up to speed? It's imperative just because it's a young unit. I believe I'm not a math guy. Obviously, I went into journalism, so I didn't have to do math. But according to my calculations, I believe the cornerback room, or the secondary in general, I believe is an average age of about 25.4 years old. So that's like you just started living at that age, and now you have pretty much about a starting unit that's going to consist of 22, 23-year-old guys. So his ability to be able to coach them beyond their capabilities right now and simulate that experience that they don't have is going to be huge. The good thing about the secondary is it's very athletic and very instinctive, and they went after a lot of guys who are very athletic and are able to cover. So I really do like that a lot. And when you look at Joe Wood's track record, he's been able to coach a lot of really good defensive backs within his day. And I asked him, who's the best guy that you've been able to coach that you took a lot from? And he mentioned two guys. He mentioned Antonio Winfield, who is the father of the safety for the Buccaneers, really good player in his own right. Smaller guy, but just played with a level of intensity that couldn't be replicated. Really, instinctive guy, always in the right place. And another guy that he mentioned is Aqib Talib in Denver, just talking about how very confident guy, which obviously you have to have as a cornerback, but also just the level of preparation, the way that he practiced, the way that he prepared for practice, the way he prepared for games, the way that he watched film, all of these things, it was second to none. And so I really do believe that coaches are just as good as the players they coach, because it's a mutual relationship. You're trying to learn something from these players that you're coaching, and the players obviously have to take information from the coaches of how they're going to operate in the system. And I think when you look at Joe Wood's track record of the guys that he's been able to be in locker rooms with and win games with, it's huge, especially for a young cornerback room and a young safety room that's trying to figure themselves out.
All right, Levi Edwards breaking down the coaching staff here at the Raiders. We're in the defensive backfield here. So your opinion on Eric Stokes? Clearly someone they wanted. He's been rewarded. He's a starter. I love when I look at a defense and I have a starter. I don't have to look at him. You're going to start. You're going to play 17 games if you stay healthy. We're going to leave you alone. But then we come out of that, and Teron Johnson is a player, when I looked at his game stats and how many big games he played in Buffalo, I'm talking big games, lining up in the slot against Mahomes. Okay, lining up in some big games in the postseason and being in that postseason run with the Buffalo Bills. How do they get him on the field? Because my follow-up is going to be Traden Stukes. And when you look at this package now of how many guys he can get in the secondary here, who do you think is firm at their position? Firm at their position that they're going to be on the field. Maybe they'll come out for a breather here and there, but we know we're going to have these guys in the secondary.
Well, I think Taron Johnson, when you look at his skill set and what he was able to do in Buffalo, I think a lot of people pigeonholed him to that nickel spot of being the slot corner, nickelback. However, I do believe that he is capable of being an outside corner as well, and if the Raiders need him to play there, for an example, we talk about Traden Stukes. Traden Stukes is going to be more than likely you're starting, not starting because you still have Jeremy Chin, you still have to figure that out, but he's either going to be a starting center or he's going to be in on those big nickel packages or the star, depending on how you want to look at certain defenses. And that role, that spot that we're talking about with Stukes and we're talking about with Taron Johnson, that's become a big, ever-growing, evolving position within football. And it's now to the point where some of these teams that I've seen win Super Bowls in the past 5 to 6 years, like that position alone has been able to unlock defenses to win Super Bowls. And so
interesting.
I think Taron Johnson is going to be a huge piece in that, especially being able to try to help a lot of the other younger guys get acclimated to that system. So I really do like what he can do, because either one of those guys, either Stukes or Taron Johnson, I think they both have the ability to play big nickel in this defense.
All right, one more follow-up as we take a look at Joe Woods and the players he's going to be coaching. Where are we at? I was scared to death last year when I knew it was for real that Caillou was going to start with Darian Porter, and I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, this is not going to work out well, and it didn't work out well. But Caillou played okay at times. He had a couple interceptions, and I like Darian Porter. I like his size. I like his length. What has to happen to Darian Porter in year 2 to secure the starting corner spot opposite of Stokes? How difficult will that be?
Really, he's just got to live and learn. Shout out to your boy Caillou, Gorman kid, played with Big John. But at the end of the day, I look at Darian Porter, and I just kind of went off on a small rant a couple of minutes ago about how you look at guys like Charles Grant and Caleb Rogers who didn't get enough playing time until the season was too far gone. And I think Darian Porter is another one of those guys that could have gotten a little bit more playing time a little bit earlier in the season. And so I really do like how he was able to evolve at the end. And at the end of the day, he's just a young guy who's playing a position that he hasn't really gotten a lot of experience playing. So when it comes to Darian Porter, he has the size, he has the speed, he has the coverage skill sets, he has everything that you need to be a successful corner is really just getting those reps in and being able to make it muscle memory over and over and over again at the NFL level.
I hope these guys have a good camp in the secondary because Cousins is going to want to win the position. Mendoza's going to want to win the position. Aiden O'Connell's going to want to win the position. And I hope they're throwing the ball in training camp and testing the secondary. I'm hoping that when they get days and pads or they go full bore, that they're going after this secondary. And the secondary and the coaching led by Robbie Leonard can make sure that they have a bunch of different looks, a bunch of different hybrid players competing there, and just make the defense look a little bit different than the defense we saw the last couple of years that was really easy or easier to pick apart. I have a lot of respect for Patrick Graham. I know Patrick Graham well, and I think he did the best with what he had. But I'm looking for a vast turnaround for this defensive secondary, considering what John Spytek did in the draft.
Yeah, no, it was very strategic. He went heavy defense. I think a lot of people just kind of look at Fernando Mendoza and it's just kind of like, okay, well, draft's over. We got our guy. We got our franchise quarterback. Everything's going to be right in the world. But when you look at the rest of that draft and how much they put into the defensive side of the ball with the Keyron Crawford, who I thought was extremely underrated at Auburn. When you look at these corners and these safeties, you look at Dramad, you look at Hezekiah Massis, who, I mind you, got a lot of playing time.
Yep.
In mini camp and in OTAs. You look at the safeties with Johnson, and you look at the guy like Stooks, who we were talking about, who obviously is a older guy coming in, has a little bit more of that poise to him than your average rookie coming in. So the defensive side of the ball, heavily invested in. Also, not to mention Brandon Cleveland at defensive tackle. So it feels like there's a huge initiative to bolster that side of the ball, especially from what we saw last year.
This master class with the coaches is brought to you by Woodson Bourbon Whiskey. Charles loves the brand that he is building, Woodson Bourbon Whiskey. You're going to see a lot of Charles Alumni Weekend. You'll be seeing Charles during the year. Every Raider fan should have at least 2 to 3 bottles of Woodson Bourbon Whiskey in their Raiders man cave. So we're going to move over here. We got 2 more coaches to get to. We'll start off a little before we come back with Travis Smith, the defensive line. He joins the Silver and Black after spending 1 season as the defensive run game coordinator for the Titans, where the great Jeffrey Simmons earned his 4th career Pro Bowl honor. I thought arguably with Aaron Donald out of the league, he was the best inside defensive player out there. And, man, we sure need some improvement at the D tackle position. Tell me why, with Rob Leonard going to defensive coordinator, why he steps in Travis Smith, and when you sat down with him, what'd you learn about him?
Well, first off, a nice little fun fact for you guys out there. I'm not sure if you guys know this or not, but Travis Smith is a huge reason why Max Crosby is on this team, because he told me a really good story about when he was in his previous regime with the Raiders that lasted for close to 10 years. John Gruden, he was the only coach. I think he was an assistant defensive line coach at the time. Gruden was the only coach that Gruden sent out to the Eastern Michigan Pro Day.
I know that. Yeah, a great story.
And basically was like, hey, this is your task. You got to check out this guy. And he was the only guy from the Raiders staff that was sent out there. And he had to evaluate Max and bring back his findings. And his findings were good enough to draft a 5-time Pro Bowler in the 4th round of the 2019 NFL Draft. So shout out to Travis Smith for that.
He is, not to interrupt, he is really excited to be back.
Oh, yeah.
When I was around, you could just tell the smile on his face. He's a Raider. He had a nice stint with the Raiders, and now he's back to help the Raiders get to the next level. This is the perfect type of coach who evolved as a better coach than when he left the Oakland Raiders, and now he gets a chance to come back to Las Vegas and really help the squad.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I think I'm going to be very honest. The best Raiders defensive line that I've seen since I've been here covering this team was his last year with the Las Vegas Raiders in 2021, where they were they weren't blitzing. They were rushing 4 pretty much on every play, and they still had the highest pressure percentage in the league with just 4 guys. It was Max Crosby, Yannick Ngakoue, Quentin Johnson, and Solomon Thomas wrecking stuff up. And that was a Travis Smith-led front before he left to go pursue his opportunity with Chicago. And really just a good coach, really excited to be back. Silver and Black is ingrained in him just from all of that time. Something that I really took from him just talking to him about, we talk about coaching philosophies and how people want to do certain things. And the big thing that he told me is that effort is non-negotiable. It doesn't matter, all the technique stuff and all those other things. That's going to take care of itself. The plays, that's going to take care of itself. But the one thing you need to do when you step on this field, on this front, is you have to rush with effort and passion every play. Everything else will take care of it outside of that. But if you're not coming over here and holding each other accountable and putting your best foot forward every play, that's the one thing that you can't coach is effort. And he refuses to coach it.
I think this is a tremendous lieutenant under Robbie Leonard. A native of Walnut Creek, he attended Foothill High School in Pleasanton, and we all know in the Bay Area the connection to Raider Nation in Pleasanton. When we come back, we got one more coach to get to. No score in Atlanta between England and Argentina. We're about to go to stoppage time in the end of the first half. I didn't expect this. I expected a couple of goals here in the first half. England is right where they want to be. They have Argentina under control. There's been one yellow card. One more coach coming up when we come back.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by Modelo Especial, the new #1 beer in the U.S.
JT back with you along with Levi Edwards. I think we timed it perfectly. We got halftime, no score with England, Argentina, and we got one more coach to preview. Really appreciate Levi's breakdowns. They've been fantastic. Now we go to Mike Sullivan, the quarterback's coach, and he's been around. His 21st season in the NFL, most recently worked with the Pittsburgh Steelers, serving as the team's quarterback coach from 2021 to 23. He's got a great history. He worked with Ben Roethlisberger during the final season of his 18-year career. And I was telling you in our YouTube chat, everybody should be in YouTube. You could hear what we say during the breaks. This has got to be the most exciting opportunity, I would assume, of his career. Kirk Cousins, Fernando Mendoza, Tom Brady, Clint Kubiak, who's a savant who just came off a Super Bowl. Now he comes in here. What is his goal? What does he need to do every day at practice to make these quarterbacks better?
Really just keep a competitive nature, I would definitely say.
Love that.
And this is a very interesting situation that he's never been in before with these other teams, just in the standpoint that everywhere else he's been, there's been a guy in place. You've had Eli Manning, you had Ben Roethlisberger, you've had guys like these are your quarterbacks. This is him kind of venturing off into the wild a little bit of, you don't really know who your guy is right now. You have three guys who are capable of being starters. You're going to let them, battle it out. Obviously, you have one, proven veteran option. You have a guy that's your #1 pick. You have a guy that has been on the team for a while that won you some games as a starter. So you have a little bit of everything in between. And so I think for him, it's just properly evaluating and just keeping it very highly competitive amongst all of the quarterbacks in that room to make sure that you're getting the best results.
So I like what you're saying there, because a lot of people in the outside world will just call BS and go, look, give me a break. It's Fernando's franchise forever. And once Fernando steps on the field, it's his franchise, and I'm a big believer that once he starts playing, it's his team. But he's not ready to go yet. And I think him behind the scenes with Fernando after every practice with Kirk Cousins, what do you think that's going to be like? Because I would assume that Fernando's going to want to stay after practice daily with a couple of receivers. Would you expect Coach Sullivan to be right out there helping Fernando?
Yeah, and I've seen it. I've seen it in the building. I've seen a couple of times after practice or even like just throughout the day, Mike getting in some work with Fernando. He definitely seems like he wants to help him be the best that he can, because obviously why wouldn't you? You're the quarterback's coach. That's your job. Just Mike in general, this is definitely a guy, just talking to him, probably one of my more favorite people that I've talked to for this series. Just a really good guy, really funny. It's funny. He has like that military background, so you kind of have like your – I guess your opinion of what you think like this, this straight up military guy is supposed to be like. But he kind of, reminded me a little bit of my dad, who also served in the military in the Navy, where it's just kind of like these two very personable guys, adventurous, really love being around the game of football. I really just enjoyed our conversation that we had, and he's really excited to be with the Raiders, especially considering he grew up a Raiders fan. He grew up in, he grew up in the Bay Area. Obviously, he was mesmerized by guys like Jim Plunkett, guys like Tom Flores, being a person of Hispanic descent. So he is really excited to be with the Raiders, and he's really excited to have this opportunity for sure.
So this series is get to know. That's what it is called.
Yes.
And how many coaches did you sit down and interview and get a chance? And how good were they with your time? We got about a minute to go. What was that like?
It was every single position coach. Really good. I learned a lot about all of them. They were very gracious with their time. And like I said, just learning about the journey, learning about where all these guys came from and how they got here, I think that's probably been the most fun part because, there's no such thing as overnight success. And a lot of these guys had a lot of trials and tribulations and coached some of the best players that will ever play the game of football, all of them. But like I said, a common trend between all of them is that they're winners and they won in all of their previous destinations. So it was really good to get to talk to all of them. And obviously, another fun fact, Mike Sullivan is a jiu-jitsu guy. So, maybe one day he's going to get me on the mat and we're going to, have a couple of runs at it, and hope he doesn't whip my ass.
All right, so you're on your road. You're on the road to Pensacola.
Yes, I am.
You got room for the brick if I want to come in for a 3-dayer, have some Modelo's on the beach. I've never been to Pensacola. I heard it's beautiful. White sand beaches. You look out at the water.
Oh yeah, very underrated beach. Pensacola Beach. I'm very biased, but Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, all that stuff, in deep Alabama, Panhandle. You're gonna run to some ratchet people down there, but the beach quality is amazing.
I don't know what ratchet people means.
I can say that. I can say that because they're my people, and I'll stand on business if somebody tries to come out of Alabama. But no, we got some ratchet people down there on the beach having a good time.
Thanks for coming in next week when you get back from Pensacola. We'll either do it in the building. I want to go through another stack of 4 or 5 coaches.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Levi Edwards, everybody. When we come back, hour number 2, we got halftime in the soccer game. Hey, LeBron James, I'm putting you to the mat. You got 4 choices: Cleveland, the Warriors, Miami, or the Sixers. Where's LeBron going?
Well, if he wants to win a championship, he probably needs to go back home to Cleveland because that's the best team out of the 4 right now.
Wow. Tomorrow on that Summer League, we'll tell you that when we come back on the other side. What an hour. Finley Volvo Cars of Las Vegas. Go test drive a new vehicle. Ask for Mike when you walk in. He'll walk you to the vehicle of your choice, give you the ability to look and get an understanding of the safety, the beauty, the accuracy, everything they do right at Finley Volvo Cars, Las Vegas. Go! I'm ready to roll. Hour number 2 of the show. Thanks to Levi Edwards, who did an hour breakdown of the coaches. And that was pretty much for me to get me up to speed because this is my homework season. This is where I have to do my homework for the Raiders. So I'm prepared for you. Because a lot of times, and this year I'll be able to go to some training camp practices because they're at 7:30 in the morning. But when they used to have them at noon or 11, I can't go. I got to do the show. So I don't get the chance to meet all the coaches. Decades, this will be my 29th season. For 20-plus years, I knew all the coaches. We'd go have beers. I'd be in their backyards, hanging out with them, going to dinner. You know how many coaches we fired in the last 4 years? You know how many coaches looked at my wife? Their wives said, hey, we're looking to get a school. We hear you're the teacher. My wife's a teacher. Can you help with that? And then they're gone in a year. I mean, it's a tough business. You think being a coach is easy? Yeah, some coaches make a lot of money. A lot of them don't. A lot of them make good money, but they got to move. They got to take their kids and rip them out of school and move them out of school and make new friends. Or a little secret is a lot of coaches leave their family at home because they don't want to take their kids out of school. And then they coach, and then they go home when they get an off day, and then they go back and see their family, or they have to get a hotel room for their family to come in on game day. Being a coach is not easy in the NFL because you're required to work your ass off way too much. Now, the money is caught up. But back in the day, Fred Biletnikoff was a coach with this team for a long time. Freddie was one of the greatest players in NFL history. Freddie was a coach for a long time. Okay, he was doing that because they didn't make any money in his era to the way he deserved to. So he needed to supplement his income, so he became a coach. And then he became a Hall of Famer. He had endorsement deals, and Freddie's done really well. But coaches coach, and they don't stop. They coach when they go to dinner. They go to dinner with other coaches. They're talking about football on the weekends. They feel like if they're not back in the building, they're letting the head coach down. It is tough to be a coach. There's a lot of burnout in coaching. Not everybody's up for it. But as we talked about with Levi in the first hour of the show, they brought in some coaches here, some that are older. We talked about two of the older coaches that we just covered off on. Rick Dennison, right? Rick Dennison is 66 years old. And he's been around a bit. And if you look at coaches and their ability, Mike Sullivan's been around a long time. But then there's some new younger coaches that bring in a lot of energy. So after that hour with Levi, we'd like to take some calls from you on not the coaches. We're not looking to do a Q&A on the coaches. We'll keep it simple. Today I'm talking about coaches on what you think the style of Clint Kubiak should be. Because I think a lot of people, including myself, I get a chance to interview him. We don't know. He's never coached a game as a head coach. He's been a coordinator, and he's been a damn good coordinator. But I think he's surrounding himself with very good people overall. I'm very impressed with that. So that's one of the topics if you want to get in. Again, I did 7 hours of radio yesterday. My voice is barely holding on. That's not your problem. It's mine. But I better hear from some people in this hour. I ain't talking an hour, Clay. I ain't talking a full hour. So let's get the phones going. We got a lot to get to. 702-365-9200. No score. Clay, are you surprised by no score? I thought we'd see a Harry Kane goal or a Messi goal or a Jude Bellingham goal. I mean, the pressure on both these teams to get one goal and then hopefully hold on is going to be incredible.
This is a heavyweight bout where the guys are feeling each other out in that first couple rounds. And this is where you're going to start to see the second half starting to get open up. And I think Argentina's going to try to find some matchups to start to break that wall that England has.
Yeah, I would think you'd say that too. That's a really good analysis here. I like England. I'm rooting for England. All of Europe is rooting against England. All of Europe roots against England. Scotland roots against them. Ireland roots against them. Spain roots against them. Obviously because the Kingdom of England, over the centuries, there's not a lot of people throughout Europe who are fan-friendly to England. So if England wins and gets to the championship round against Spain, it'll be amazing. If we get Spain versus Messi, that will be one of the more brilliantly tactical matchups that we've seen in the World Cup in quite some time. All right, here's what I want to get into this hour. I need to hear from people who watch the baseball All-Star game. This is really important to me. Last night we had the Midsummer Classic, and it was the 250th birthday of our country. I like the game. I like the promotions of the game. They did a feature where they stopped the game in the fifth inning and did a throwback to Sandlot, the movie. And they showed these little kids riding their bikes. And they got to the outfield and they opened up the outfield fence and they came on the field with their bicycles and put their bicycles down on the grass and started playing catch with the All-Stars. And they were trading baseball cards and then fireworks went off. I thought it was one of the greatest sports promotions that I've ever seen in my life. I thought it was that good. It truly was amazing to me. But the game sucked. So I'm a Yankee fan, and I want a Yankee to win. I want the American League to win. Cody Bellinger got a base hit in the first inning and ended up winning the MVP on a base hit, a 2 RBI base hit. So the game was brutal. I mean, it was a one-hitter for the National League. The National League had one hit through 7 innings. They just had a handful of hits, and it was awful. So the game wasn't any good. So I'd like to know from you if we're starting to see the baseball All-Star game jump the shark. Is this the beginning of the end? And I hope it's not, because the thing about baseball and the All-Star game, the pitching is so good that the hitters in the middle of the lineup will only get one at bat. How could you ask them to come off the bench in the 6th inning and go up against a closer who's throwing 98 miles an hour and get a hit? And we're seeing more and more of that. It's just really difficult to score any runs. So I think the All-Star game, it's getting more difficult because the pitching is so much better than the hitting. And I think that's what we saw last night if you were able to watch the game. It was just incredible to see how that played out overall. And I think there were a couple of sound bites that I wanted to play here. One from Buster Olney. I woke up this morning and I watched Get Up, and I grabbed the sound clip to send to Clay. I think Buster Olney summed up the problem going forward with the baseball All-Star game.
fragile. I think this Midsummer Classic is in a fragile state right now, and there's a lot of concern within the sport because so many players are opting out of the game, whether it's to be scheduled in the final weekend on Saturday and Sunday, making them ineligible to pitch or making the choice not to pitch. I mean, in this All-Star game, Jacob Misiorowski, the guy everyone wants to see, he didn't pitch. Paul Skeens didn't pitch. Cam Slittler, Aaron Judge was not there. Shohei Ohtani was not there. At Citizens Bank Park last night, a third of the stands had cleared out by the 8th inning. That is a concern for baseball to address as you move forward.
Yeah, that is a big concern, is that when you have Shohei Ohtani who didn't even show up for the game, Cam Slittler walked the red carpet, but he didn't pitch. Aaron Judge has a serious injury he's trying to get through. I don't blame him on not being there. But what do you think about the fact that baseball players now don't want to play in the All-Star game? I mean, Clay, you're having pitchers now who consciously want to pitch the Sunday before the All-Star game so they're not called on to pitch in the All-Star game. We grew up loving the All-Star game. That never happened before.
No one ever gave it another thought. You would go there as an honor, and it would be a milestone to your career. And it was almost the way Cam Schlittler was talking about it this week, that he almost sounded like he was regurgitating what he had heard from his coaches or GM about what's best for the team and that I hold out. I mean, personally, as a player, why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? There must be something overriding it saying, I got things in my closet. If I get hurt around this time, I'm out a lot of dough.
Yeah, and I think if you go through life feeling like you're going to get hurt when you play sports, you're done. If you go through life saying, look, I can't practice today because if I get hurt, I got a game on Sunday, then the karma of getting hurt is going to come right back to you. In baseball, Juan Soto's got a contract of $750 million. Ohtani more. You got to play in the All-Star game. It's your requirement to play. So did anybody watch the All-Star game last night, or am I going to get crickets here? We're a sports talk radio station. Did anybody watch the baseball All-Star game for an inning, 9 innings? Did anybody watch it, number one? Because I know why you might have missed the home run derby. That was on Netflix. But I thought Fox did a good job putting the All-Star game on TV last night. I was on the air last night, and I covered it, and we had some interviews, and I just thought that Philadelphia, the fans there couldn't have had fun. I mean, their guy Kyle Schwarber lost the home run derby. And then if you bought a ticket, they said the average walk-in price was like $1,100. How would you like to have been sitting in a Phillies jersey last night, and the team can't hit, and they got shut out? That was one of the worst performances in National League history. So the American League wins. The American League has the bragging rights there. And Cody Bellinger ended up winning the MVP. He's had a nice career. Cody Bellinger's got an MVP award and an All-Star Game MVP. So I'd like to get your opinion on what happened there, and we'll dive into that. 702-365-9200. Or do you believe that the baseball All-Star Game, like you believe with all the other All-Star Games, it's just over now? Are we going to get to the point where we're just going to have a skills competition and forget about the game? I think the game should be mandatory. But we got bigger problems on our hand. We're talking about a lockout. There's a potential for a lockout now in Major League Baseball next year. And if they do have a lockout next year, the Dodgers are going to be to blame. It's going to be about the Dodgers. Because the Dodgers looked at the salaries of baseball and basically said, we don't care. Like the Yankees do not spend at the level of the Dodgers now. Fact, not fiction. In the 70s, the Yankees did. Yeah, I admit that. In the 80s, the Yankees did. But the Dodgers have blown through any normalcy of what a salary should be. And they're deferring Ohtani's money. And they're getting any player that they want. So the rest of baseball, at least the other owners, are saying, we want a cap. And the interesting thing about this, I don't believe in caps. I believe capping out the low end, which means you should have to spend the minimum amount. So I think that would be a compromise. If you want to, you don't have a salary cap. That means the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Giants have a lot of money. You can go out and spend as much money as you want, but we're going to have taxes and thresholds. But the minimum teams like the Pirates and the Marlins and all those other teams, they have to spend a certain amount to stay competitive. And if they don't, then they have to, they have to sell the team. They have to figure out new ownership because that's what I think is one of the big troubles with baseball. All right, there was a big topic yesterday. I'll be at Summer League tomorrow. Adam Silver was talking about the expansion of Las Vegas and what that will mean. This is a huge topic, and I was telling Clay that I'm trying to get ahead of this. I'm trying to talk to people off the record about who's in the front to buy this team. And I'm not going to go on the radio and act like an idiot. I'm not going to get on the radio yet and support one group over the others. My loyalty is to Mark Davis. It's always been the Davis family. Mark Davis brought us a dynasty with the Aces. I would assume, and I'm not assuming to be correct, but I would assume that Mark Davis and his ownership group, if they wanted to get involved with this, they would, but I haven't talked to Mark about it yet, and I will. I'm going to have a sit down with Mark Davis and talk about this and what Mark Davis thinks about this. Same thing with Mr. Foley. I don't know Bill Foley personally. I met him a few times, but does Mr. Foley have the opportunity to be the front runner to buy this team? Then we're going to take a look at Jerry Colangelo. Jerry Colangelo is like the godfather of basketball currently living Jerry Colangelo with USA Basketball. USA Basketball practices in Vegas. Jerry Colangelo brought the USA Basketball team here. Think of what he's done and his connection to Summer League and everything else. And then you got a guy like Bob Iger, who ran ABC Disney. He's pretty big. And then what happens if Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or someone else comes in at the last second and says, I want in on Vegas. I want to own the team. And they put together LeBron James and Magic Johnson, and they're able to get a good group together, and they go out and position themselves with the best offer. So I don't have an allegiance to anybody other than Mark Davis, my friend and my boss, and I want to find out what he's thinking about. And once I start sitting down with people and I get valuable information instead of just crap that you throw up against the wall, I'll let you know. But here was Adam Silver yesterday with his press conference at NBA Summer League.
In terms of the process that now for potential expansion here, multiple various serious groups are in the process of presenting plans to our bankers, and those plans not only include who the potential owners would be, but their vision for what Las Vegas basketball could look like, where they would play, how they would present the game, and it's music to my ears. I mean, I would just say that, this has become, this city, an entertainment hub globally, brings enormous interest to the game of basketball. Something I wouldn't have predicted beyond the NBA. It's become a center of youth basketball in this country right now, not just the major facilities, but the number of courts in town, the trainers, and again, the level of interest. The WNBA, of course, that's had great success here. So I really appreciate what we're seeing so far, and so it's very encouraging. I mean, no votes have been taken yet. We've got a ways to go still in terms of those discussions with interested parties, but I'm optimistic about the future here.
England goal! England goal! Goal! England goal! Go, 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 go! England 1-0 over Argentina. It looks like it's onside. It looks like it's a good goal. Unbelievable. Gordon with the goal. Messi looks on. He's in shock. England takes a 1-0 lead in the 55th minute. What an attack by England. Taking it the length of the field, across, right in front of the net, a tap-in. England. And it's a clean goal. England up 1-0. Gordon with the goal for England, and it's good. And it's not being reviewed, and Argentina wants to get on with the game. Wow. England on the board. Now, will England pull back and play defense and try to win? No. England's got to find a way to score again because Argentina's going to storm back here. That opens up a line for you. Hey, I'm talking World Cup, live in progress if you'd like. 702-365-9200. Houston is in L.A. He's calling in on Raider Nation Radio. What's happening?
Hey, of course I'm a diehard Raider fan, but I want to talk a little baseball, because I'm a Dodger fan, like born, within a family, man, when it came to that. And I remember back in the days, my guy, when the Dodgers weren't that good and your Yankees had that outrageous non-salary cap and nobody was complaining. I wasn't complaining. I just wanted my Dodgers to get good. But now, all of a sudden, my Dodgers, we got a couple rings and all that good stuff going for the third one, and now the salary cap's a huge issue. I can't quite say.
Well, let me tell you why. There's a couple of issues because, again, it's fair to look back and revisionist history. Dodgers were spending good money back in the day. Yankees were spending a little bit more. But the Dodgers now are blowing through any vision of what payroll should look like. I mean, they're getting to a point now where your number 6 hitter is getting more money than Aaron Judge with the Yankees. So you're shoving it in everyone's face. Like you're buying everybody. And then you're deferring Ohtani's money and you're not even paying your bills and paying Ohtani. You're deferring it into years to come. And I think a lot of fans like myself are really pissed off by that you're deferring money. And we want to close down that loophole. If you want to pay Ohtani all that money, you got to pay him every year. You got to pay him at the window.
Hey, but everybody else has that same opportunity, JT. Everybody got the same. I mean, the amount of money in the wallet may not be the same, but everybody has that same opportunity. So,
no, they don't. No, hold on a second. You have millions upon millions of fans in Los Angeles alone. They don't have millions upon millions of fans in Milwaukee, Pittsburgh. They don't. You have an advantage of having more fans with money, higher prices for season tickets, higher prices for parking and everything. You have more money in Los Angeles, the number 2 media market.
They just need to leave my Dodgers alone, my brother.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I'm jealous because I can't have you win 3 in a row. That's a dynasty. If you get beat this year, the Dodger dynasty's dead. And I'll tell you another thing, Houston, you were outplayed by Toronto last year. If Toronto would have finished you off, we wouldn't be talking Dodgers. We'd be like Dodgers like everybody else. They couldn't beat Toronto. You beat Toronto, and it looks like you're going for a three-peat. I guess Houston's gone.
Exactly what you're talking about. I can't argue with that, But let's go Raiders as well because we're coming back on that season. Thank you, JT.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you calling in on a different sport. I pull my hair out in the summer when people don't talk about other sports. Messi's got a good look. Wow, Messi's got a good look, and he couldn't get it off. So they cleared it. Argentina is pushing heavily. When we get to the month of July, we need to talk about other sports. We just cannot talk about Raiders. I cannot survive. I cannot do it. My mind needs to talk about the World Cup, LeBron James, the All-Star game. And I know you do too. I cannot sit here and talk about non-Raider news on a non-Raider day. And I just gave you an hour of Raiders. Gave you an hour with Levi. And if you don't want to react to what Levi said, I got to move. I don't have 6 co-hosts. I watched a television show today, a radio show, that had 9 people on the radio with 9 microphones. I still have 1, and Clay. And Clay can talk, and he's great, and he's a host himself. But I want to hear from callers. I want to hear from sports fans. I want to hear from passionate fans about the World Cup, the All-Star game last night. And the All-Star game last night was good and bad. I thought the promotion, they introduced the players. They came out of a Liberty Bell and signed a Declaration of Independence. Clay, I thought that was brilliant. They come out of the clubhouse steps with a feather pen, and they sign a fake Declaration of Independence. I thought that was great.
Yeah, the roster card was made out with the John Hancock and all that. Nobody's ever done that like that before. Well done, Philadelphia.
And what do you think about the trade deadline with Skol Ball? Are you a fan if your team can't win the World Series, you got to make trades? Or are you a fan with, let's go one more time, let's go another 2 or 3 weeks and try to see if we can get hot, go on a run?
Detroit's gone on a run. They've turned it on, and now that they have like 3 good starting pitchers, like they hoped they had the beginning of the year, now they feel like that's what the future looks like. I'm of the opinion of go and make that move with somebody like the Dodgers has got the money that Skubal wants, the lifestyle he wants to live, but also the great farm system that we can go and plunder and bring to Detroit, because that's the problem. Keeping free agents in Detroit is very difficult because it's difficult to live there.
With Skol Ball going to the Dodgers, isn't that the call I just took? How disgusting would it be to baseball if the Dodgers, who have everybody, got screwball too? Why can't the Dodgers win with what they have? They have the enormous payroll. Why can't they let that payroll ride?
Yeah, they don't want to, and they want to. They're forcing the hand of what the market will do and what the rules allow, and that move alone could actually be like the poster child of what the lockout could eventually be, where greed overtook everybody and one team is top heavy and everyone else is at the lower rung. But I agree with you. There's plenty of markets that are not spending the money that they're supposed to be, and there has to be that floor raised, and people have to get competitive on purpose, and rules need to be enacted on these owners.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if they get – look, my Yankees got Cole, Slittler, Fried – Rodon. The Yankees got good pitching. If the Yankees can get their 5 starters healthy and their top 3, who's going to beat the Yankees if they go into a series with Garrett Cole, Cam Slittler, and Max Fried? I mean, you can stretch those guys out in the playoffs with the days off in between, and you can win the World Series with that. But the Dodgers have the hitting on top of the pitching. So the Dodgers, if they get screwball, that would be an aggressive play. That would be about as aggressive as a play as I've seen in quite some time. And they might be able to do it. What I'd like to do today, because tomorrow I'll be at Summer League, I'm trying to get everybody's final prediction on LeBron. So today and tomorrow, and if you can't get through tomorrow, give us a call now. You're on the clock. Everyone in the Bay Area, last call for LeBron. We know we got a big audience in the Bay Area. We can see the numbers. If you're in the Bay Area, this is your last shot for LeBron. Steph Curry was on Good Morning America today giving the LeBron pitch. Listen to Steph as the gigglers. I call them, they all giggle on Good Morning America. They just laugh at each other. They brought Steph in to talk about LeBron.
Well, the Bay, we know how to win. It's beautiful weather, great golf. I know he's into that. But like you said, the USA experience that we had, the battles that we had over the years. We just know how to play basketball, and I think that he would enjoy, just the idea of what it means to finish your career the right way. He knows what he wants, and eventually he'll make that decision. It's totally up to him. But we're having fun with it, knowing that he's got his pick of the entire league, like wherever he wants to go. To be honest,
I don't know. There was a good pitch. Did you hear anything back? Is there anything we should know?
I came here to break some. No.
All right, so everybody's trying to make their last pitch for LeBron. We're looking for you. This is the summer of LeBron. The decision should be made. LeBron's supposed to be at Fanatics Fest in New York on Thursday or Friday. He might wait to make it there. And I think LeBron wants to wait for it. He might want to wait for it until after the World Cup. He might want to do that. So LeBron is in complete control of this decision. 702-365-9200 if you want to get in. Here's Ron in Sacramento. What's going on, Ron?
Hey, JT. Good hearing from you.
Yep.
Great episode on the coaches. And the way, I've been a fan for 60 years, and since 95, we've seen a lot of coaches. Every 3 years, every time we hire a coach, 3 years. I got a feeling that we might be talking about this coaching staff 6 years from now. Mm-hmm. So that's our desire, and that's the way I feel. I see they got a plan. He's got a serious attitude about himself, and I like it. And I think that we're going to see how the players respond, and I'm sure they will, because everybody's behind it. And I think they're building something excellent. That's all.
Yeah, and Ron,
I wanted to say.
Yeah, one more thing. You make it a good point, because no matter what happens with the team this season, and we're hoping for a better record, I think it's safe to say they're going to have a better record. But these coaches got to be given time. I mean, the turnover we've seen at all these coaches' positions, it's hard on the players. I mean, the players coming in who are retained, every year they got to listen to a new coach and a new coaching philosophy. That's hard on the players. They want some stability there, and I think the fans should want stability for these coaches, like you said.
Yeah, quick story. When I was coming down to the draft in Vegas, and I ran into Mr. Hayes at the airport, and Lester says, Rod,
we got to keep our coaches. We got to keep our coaches. You know how he talks, just like that. And that's where the players are at. So that's what we got to do. We got to keep our coaches.
Yep, I appreciate the call. Thanks a lot. Mark Davis has spent a lot of money on coaches. A lot. I mean, you can't imagine the amount of money that has been paid out to coaches and players the last couple of years. And I'm not just talking about Christian Wilkins and players that were a bust or players that were here for a short period of time. That happens with every team. Every team has a budget of players that aren't retained, who didn't work out. But I'm talking about the amount of coaches that Mark Davis was able to agree to for the coaches to hire, and then he had to pay the coaches out. We all know what the numbers look like. The amount of money owed to Josh McDaniels, Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll. I mean, it's enormous. Enormous money. And, of course, they have the money to do it, but they don't want to have to do that anymore. They want to be smarter with the cash and not have to pay former coaches who are on the clock for another 2 or 3 years. Argentina, it's like they're on the power play, but they're not. They have everybody up. I'm just sensing, Clay, that we're going to see a penalty. I'm just sensing that Messi's going to get a penalty kick at some point. England, it's never easy for England. So a handball or a penalty inside the box, I'm just sensing that's what Argentina is going to do to get back in the game.
I'm surprised as physical as this game is, there hasn't been one yet, especially for Messi, who was starting to get very hot. And that's what I kind of expected this match to turn into. It's just a matter of time now before somebody has to start getting the cards out.
Yeah, Messi just delivered a corner kick right into the box that was beautiful, and England was ready to clear it. We've been telling you about Flecha Azul tequila. So I have a suitcase. Oh, what a save. Oh, my God. What a save. By England, what a save. So on my way up to Boise for the weekend, I have a travel suitcase where we could store some wine, and I put in a couple of bottles of Fletcher Azul. They're a new partner of ours. And I've been telling everybody my wife makes this incredible margarita now. So we're out at the pool at my buddy's place. He's got like a little ranch house in Boise, gorgeous, and a blender. Everything was there. We had Cointreau, which was fantastic, and we made some Fletcher Azul margaritas that everybody had in the pool. It was 100 degrees after we were done river tubing. That was great. So my wife now thinks she's the queen of making margaritas, lightly salted, and we're using Fletcher Azul tequila. They're a proud partner of our show. We recommend you try it. If you already haven't, it's an amazing brand. They will be with us all football season. Fletcher Azul, proud partner of our show on Raider Nation Radio. Hydration break. They're stopping a great match for a hydration break to give you commercials. We're in the 69th minute. England 1, Argentina 0. Come on, England. Come on, England. Hold on. What a game if England can win.
Back to the JT the Brick Show. Brought to you by M Resort Spa and Casino, the official hotel of the Las Vegas Raiders.
He told the team that he wanted to go there, work out, see how he felt, see how he reacted, see everything that went along with being back in pads on the football field, and seeing how it made him feel. Now, I don't know what he told him about that after he went through those workouts at the facility, but I really think it was just a trial method to see how his whole body reacted, how his mind reacted to being back out there.
That was Adam Schefter. Adam Schefter just told you about Aaron Donald and Aaron Donald's ability to practice and do whatever he wants to do with the Rams before he makes a decision. JT, back with you. England's goalie just made an incredible save in the box. It looked like an automatic goal for Argentina. It's the 75th minute. England's leading 1-0 on Lionel Messi in Argentina, and Argentina is just peppering the box with headers, and England keeps making saves. So another save here by England, and it's pretty evident now that England's just playing defense, and they want to try to win this game 1-0. So they're up 1-0, and Argentina is pressing. And they're pressing in a big way, and maybe if England can get a goal on a big break here, they can put the game away. But we're in the 76th minute. There will be some stoppage time, but I don't think a lot. And Argentina now is just feeling like they're desperate if they're going to find a way to win. I mean, Clay, look at these saves coming in. I mean, amazing saves. And that's it. Argentina's had a chance here. So, Clay, I've been talking about Aaron Donald a little bit. The only downside to this deal is if he comes back and plays, his clock starts again. He's got to wait 5 years for the Hall of Fame. And I know a lot of Hall of Famers, and they make money as Hall of Famers. But he makes a lot more playing. So if he comes back, he's going to have to start the clock again and wait another 5 full years to get into Canton, Ohio, where I think he's been out of the league 3 or 4. He's almost there. Do you think it's worth the risk?
And at the same time, is your desire really matched up with how you feel? Are you in NFL shape? Are you in NFL playing shape? Are you in NFL playing commitment and dedication as soon as the camps start to begin? When you're off that long, you're off that clock too. That body clock is considerably disabled, regardless of what you think you still have left.
Yeah, that's the only pushback I'll give you on that. I think he's such a unique athlete. He might be the only athlete I've ever seen in NFL history. I mean, I'm sure there's a few others that I believe is in better shape now than he was when he played football. His workouts are supposedly more dominant now than they were. So he's kind of a freak.
Yeah, he is. Definitely. There's nothing like that. And would he be able to accept a role on a rotation instead of a starting position? Is he somebody more of a third down specialist at this point?
It's a great question. I think that you can bring him along at any pace you want, just to know you have him. The intimidation that he's going to put in. Levi Edwards, if you missed it, he was here for the first hour of the show, and we brought that up. Levi said, and it was a very astute point, that the Raiders are playing some of the best defensive lines in all of football. And that stood out to me. I'm not going to forget that. And we know the Raiders are playing Seattle, the 49ers, and the Rams. We know how tough those lines are. You look through the rest of the division, and Denver, played Denver twice. That's one of the best defensive lines in all of football. So the offensive line is going to have to be at a very high level to compete with the defensive lines that we're going up against this year. Stephon Diggs is in the news. I don't care how many children he has, but he's in the news for all the kids he has, some text messages that are being investigated. I think he's a really shady guy, but he's a very good receiver. And even last year, he stayed out of trouble and he played in the Super Bowl for New England. Stephon Diggs is now trying to tell people that he's ready to go, and he's the best number 2 wide receiver in all of the NFL.
Everybody got a one. Let's just say everybody got a one. Opportunities aside, people might say it might be like, what, 7? That's like real one.
Right.
In my opinion, I could compete with anybody. But take those as your ones, right?
Right.
You can't name a number 2 better than that. There's not a number 2 on a team. Like, let's presumably give people the credit to just say, okay, you want to take the number 1 spot away. Name your number 2 receiver right now.
Right.
And tell me how much he makes. And then my last question is he better than me?
Yeah, so he's trying to position himself to be someone who can come in and be a number 2. The Raiders have a great number 2 in Jalen Nailor, but he might end up being the number 1. I look at the Raiders and I say Brock Bowers is the number 1. Brock Bowers is the number 1 receiving option on the Las Vegas Raiders. Number 2 is Jalen Nailor, going into camp, at least in my opinion. And then you look at Trey. Well, I can't believe Argentina's not scoring. Bicycle kicks. I mean, they're doing everything to try to score here. And England is holding on to dear life as their captain, Harry Kane, just got hit in the back and he's on the ground. We're in the 80th minute with England 1, Argentina 0. So back to what Diggs said. I just think the Raiders would want to avoid a guy like that. I just don't think you want a guy like that with some of the background noise, Clay, in the building, because the building seems real settled to me.
Yeah, they don't want anybody that's going to be more than the team, and they don't want any baggage right now. They're working just fine without that. But just to make the claim that I'm the best wide receiver 2 in the league, like, there's a million guys that can say that. Like, what does that really mean? How does that make you any better than anybody else? If they got me more wide open, then I would score more touchdowns. Yeah, of course. But for Diggs to come out and try to find a home, there is so much baggage, and it seems like more is uncovered every month. There's something new.
there are so many good receivers still available, and their stock market price is pummeling and getting cheaper and cheaper. I just think there are deals out there, and there's no debate that the Raiders have room for more wide receivers or a veteran. No debate. But the Raiders also have depth with some young receivers who are coming to camp, and maybe one or two of them turn out to be a diamond in the rough. And the final NFL piece of sound here is from Von Miller, who's been hanging out a lot with Max Crosby at the Sack Summit. And Von's looking to play still. And he talked about the fact that he didn't sign with Seattle. He made some decisions coming up here that weren't that smart for him and an opportunity to win.
I only got 2 offers last year. I had, one contract offer from the Washington Commanders. That's why I went and played, and I had one offer from the Seattle Seahawks, and obviously I picked the wrong team on that one. It would have been three teams with 3 different teams with 3 Super Bowls, but that's just how it's supposed to be. For me, I just felt like I knew the Seattle Seahawks had a really good defense. Coach Frazier was over there, and I went in and took a visit there. I understood how good the Seattle Seahawks were. For me, with the Washington Commanders, I just felt like Jaden Daniels was poised for another great season. His rookie season went all the way to the NFC Championship. Last year, he got hit with injuries, not just the quarterback position, but all over the place.
Yeah, when you make a decision late in your career about where you want to play, that decision could be a disaster, or it could be the best decision of your life, and that's what LeBron James doesn't have to worry about now. LeBron's got 4 rings. He's a made man. He doesn't need to win another ring. He's the same guy. But if he gets his 5th ring and he does it with a team that he hasn't won before, like Philadelphia, that's so much more impressive than what Michael Jordan did with the Wizards. That brings LeBron James so much closer to GOAT status and closer to Jordan if he's able to do that. These are big decisions that are being made. Big decisions coming up here for Argentina. It's not like hockey where you can pull the goalie and really get an extra offensive player. The goalie just moves up and he plays around midfield. And that's what we're seeing now with Argentina. They're all in. They're just taking shots. They're just pumping the ball in the box and trying to feed Messi. This could be Messi's last game in the World Cup as Messi once again takes a shot that's wide of the goal and England will get a free kick. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show. We'll tell you what we got planned for tomorrow. I'm excited about the NBA coming to Vegas. I'm a Knicks fan. I don't have a dog in the fight, but I'd love to go to NBA games in this town. If you're an NBA fan, would you put the money aside for season tickets eventually? They ain't going to be cheap. Woo! NBA season tickets in the lower bowl? That ain't cheap.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by the DeCasta Verde Law Group. If you get injured in an accident, call 702-222-9999.
Messi on Spence, trying to find space for that left foot into the middle. Enzo Fernandez! Argentina! They always find a way, and they've tied the
game! Argentina just scored on Fox. They always do. Classic England. England does this every time. This is why it's so hard for English soccer fans to live a life, because England always does this. England had the game. They tried to go in a shell and play defense and win 1-0. Argentina was pressing, and they scored. And now England's got to defend a corner kick here. So England's in trouble now. And there's there's 9 minutes of stoppage time, Clay. 9 minutes. So it's 90 minutes. They added 9 minutes of stoppage time. Clay, that's plenty of time for Argentina to win this game, 9 minutes.
It pushes Argentina now in a very good leverage, and all the pressure now is on England.
Yes, a lot of pressure. Wow, England was so close. They were about 8 minutes away from winning. And Argentina and Messi did it again. He had the assist, and Messi was able to do it. So Argentina is still on the attack. Thanks again to Levi Edwards, who joined us. He was here for the full hour. Really did a nice breakdown on the coaches. We'll put that out in podcast form. And Clay, our great summer here at Lotus Broadcasting, tell us what the word of the day is so we can get everybody involved before Q comes on.
Raider Nation Radio and Terribles giving you the summer of fun. We're just in the middle of it as we give out great vacations each and every week. Or you could take the $3,000 cash this week. It's a very awesome 5-night stay on a cabin inside a Mississippi River cruise up and down the Big Muddy. We take care of everything, the flight, as well as the tips, the gratuities. All you got to do is text in the word of the day. You got until 5 p.m. Text the word RIVER, RIVER, 702-365-9200.
Argentina just hit the post, and Messi got the ball back, and Messi cleared it again, and they score. They score. And Argentina's going to win on one of the most brilliant passes I've ever seen from Messi. I'm so happy I'm on the radio that this happened. Save this for me. I'm on the radio live, and this just happened. It's not the hand of God. It's the miracle of Messi again. Lionel Messi just finishes England. Lionel Messi with one of the greatest cross passes I've ever seen as England has melted down. As England once again has melted down, they are looking on in astonishment. They can't believe it. Argentina was down 1-0 in the 84th minute. Argentina has scored twice on another unbelievable Messi cross. As Argentina hit the post, Messi came down, controlled the ball on the outside. He took the ball quietly. No one with him. He went on a 2-on-1. He centered it across to a perfect header, and England is going to lose. What an absolute collapse by England football once again. They'll need a miracle to come back and score. They had a trip to New York, New Jersey lined up for the World Cup final against Spain. And the miracle of Messi, the greatest soccer player ever, no debate, one of the greatest goals you could ever see under pressure in Atlanta as this World Cup continues to deliver.